D, wait for it, delightful.
Check out the name tag. You're in my world now, Grandma.
DC Comics is home to some of the most interesting properties seen in the superhero genre. They may not always have the best luck when turning those properties into movies, but no one can't deny that the characters and worlds that fall under the DC umbrella are engaging and diverse. DC gave us Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, and the other well-known heroes of the DC universe, but they have also given us the stories of Constantine, Sandman, and the Watchmen. Many of DC's properties have been made into films to varying degrees of success. Of course, when you're mainly dealing with stories about people who dress up in skin-tight clothes and battle psychotic villains, you are bound to run into inappropriate moments. In fact, you're bound to dash headlong into inappropriate moments, far more often in these DC movies than in average ordinary movie. Some of these moments are disturbing and others are a tad too obscene. If you're a DC fan looking to revisit these moments, or just a curious bystander, stay tuned. Anatomically correct costumes. The action on the screen is happening quickly. If you've managed to stomach the puns and corniness of Joel Schumacher's Batman and Robin, you get to see fight sequences that feel akin to ice dancing or ballet. You may not catch them at first, but soon as you notice some additions have been made to the Batsuit. While they have been added, you do not know. It is so absurd to see these chest pointers on Batman's costumes that you almost can't believe they're there. For some crazy reason, someone made the decision to include these pencil tips on Batman's chest piece. Not only are they unnecessary, they are hardly inappropriate accessories to Batman's wardrobe. I mean, what is their purpose? Oh, Robin gets them too? Joy! Seduction rising. A lot can be said to be wrong with the Catwoman movie starring Halle Berry. It tells a story of a shy woman who gets fatally flushed down some industrial pipes and is brought back to life by mystic cats. Upon coming back to the living, the previous shy Patience Phillips begins to gain confidence as she explores her new cat abilities. Sounds okay so far, but the style of Patience's transformation into a hero is subversively inappropriate. She begins to wear tight leather pants that have tears in sensual places, and her top is basically made of belts, and that's it. Patience becomes Catwoman by becoming more attractive. Female heroes are usually made to appear better looking than the average Jane, but Catwoman took it to a whole other level. Don't drink the tea. In Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice, Lex Luthor tries to gain approval from Senator June Finch to craft a weapon he can use against Superman. He claims that the weapon built with kryptonite he must import would serve as a deterrent for Superman if he ever chose to rise against humans. With all the integrity she can muster, Finch declines to assist him, stating his deterrent is as believable as labeling a bucket of urine as Granny's peach tea. A message to her in her final moments before a bomb goes off, Lex Luthor actually places a mason jar on the table in front of her with the words Granny's peach tea written on it. We can guess what the yellow-hued liquid inside the jar was, and we can agree that it was disgusting. Like frickin' gross. The moral compass. In nearly every version of Superman's story, Jonathan Kent is more of a father to Clark than Jor-El ever is. We don't blame Jor-El for this because he had a pretty darn good reason for not being around. As such, I've grown used to Jonathan Kent being Clark's role model when it comes to the idea of right and wrong, good and evil. So, you can imagine how disappointing it was to hear Jonathan Kent tell a young Clark Kent that it may have been okay to let school kids die if it meant keeping his powers a secret in the Man of Steel. I get that this Jonathan Kent cared about Clark keeping his powers hidden for his safety, but it felt contrary to what Superman's role model should believe. The student becomes the partner. The graphic novel The Killing Joke was about the darkness within the Joker and how it corresponded with the darkness in Batman. When I heard that DC was going to make an animated film for the graphic novel, I was thrilled. But the finished product ended up being completely disappointing. The animated film added a prologue to the original story that ended up turning Barbara Gordon into an over-sensualized character. Her friends in college hit on her, her enemies wanted to do nameless things to her, and she and Batman had a ludicrous moment of lovemaking on a rooftop in the middle of the night. Barbara was a victim of the graphic novel, but the animated film truly seemed to make her character and all that it stood for a joke. The weirdest Aquabird. Villains are villainous, and Tim Burton is the king of creating dark and disturbing villains. But maybe the Penguin in Batman Returns was taking it too far. With the wonderful talents, makeup artists, and costume designers, Penguin looks creepier than most. His plans for the children of Gotham, though, are even worse. While assembling his army of penguins, Penguin gives them a rousing speech before sending them off. Apparently, penguins need moral boosting. During the speech, the Penguin mentions his plans to blow up the children. And he's not just specifying about blowing them up, he also mentions where he is going to blow them up. And he's not talking about the tops of their heads. That's right. Look it up if you don't believe me. The desires of a god. Dr. Manhattan stands out from all of the other heroes in the movie Watchmen because he is the only one with actual powers. Not only does he have superhuman abilities, but his powers are so immense, he is compared to a god. Despite being so godlike, Dr. Manhattan still has earthly needs. However, because of the changes he has gone through, you have to wonder if everything still functions the way it normally does. According to the Silk Spectre, he tastes like a battery. How does she know what a battery tastes like? And two, is that even remotely healthy for her? Shouldn't that be a sign that she should rethink having a relationship with him? All for the money. At the very beginning of Superman Returns, we find out that Luthor has spent the 5 years he has had without Superman wooing an old heiress out of her money. We meet her when she is already at death's door, and all of her relatives are assembled outside trying to stop her from signing over everything in her estate to Lex Luthor. After she draws her last breath, we see Luthor drop a wedding ring into a glass, holding what I assume are her dentures. Hold on there. Are they saying that Luthor married her? That's how he spent his 5 years of time without Superman? I hate to ask it, but how did Luthor and his bride spend their short time married together? It's a small moment in the movie, but its grossness levels are totally grossed over. Breaking the one rule. You know, you're giving Superman such a hard time over the destruction of Metropolis. Batman sure caused the ends of dozens of peoples himself. The Batman fight scene in Batman v Superman Dawn of Justice was undoubtedly one of the better parts of that movie, but Batman's fighting style left more than a few of his opponents less than alive. And even aside from that action sequence, during the Batmobile chase that Superman interrupts, Batman causes even more destruction. Bullets and missiles fly from the vehicle and tear into the surrounding buildings. We never get a peek inside these buildings, but odds are more than a few people were inside. Can you say double standard? A true mess. Superman is the hero that kids are supposed to look up to. He stands for truth, just, and all that jazz. Superman 3 makes the hero we call the Big Blue Boy Scout take a turn for the inappropriate. The good qualities and bad qualities of Clark Kent, aka Superman, get split up into two people, and unfortunately the bad parts get to wear the costume. Christopher Reeves may have had fun playing a darkened Superman, but it was not easy to watch as an observer. I saw this movie as an adult, so I can only imagine how a kid may have felt watching Superman go to a bar. Not only that, but later on Superman has to fight himself in order to regain control of his errant personality split. This barely made sense to me with my years of movie watching experience. Poor kids. How are you a doctor? Oh, Batman. You have the best and the worst live action adaptations. One of Batman's most inappropriate companions was Dr. Chase Meridian from Batman Forever. She was a psychologist, supposedly. Honestly, her unprofessional behavior made me doubt she was a doctor of any kind. From the moment we met her, it was clear that she was only interested in one thing: Batman. and not in the way we comic fans are interested in Batman. She was attracted to him physically and mentally, since she's a psychologist. And she made her feelings no secret. In the movie, she explains her upfront attitude about her sentiments by commenting on his preference for strong women. I think what she may have misinterpreted was strong to mean crazy and obsessed. Still, friends, I actually like V for Vendetta. I've read the comic book and I've seen the movie, and I like each of them for their separate merits. But both of them include the segment which ends in an unbelievable manner. In an effort to cure Evie of her fear, V pretends to incarcerate her, subject her to the inhumane forms of punishment that he received when he was interned at Larkhill. When she emerges after initial shockwaves of horror wash over her when she realizes that her friend V was behind the whole thing, she more or less calms down about the whole thing. I understand what the experience was supposed to represent symbolically, but in practice, it's hardly credible that her later reaction was appropriate. Danger Couple. Suicide Squad had a lot of things wrong with it, and one of them was the relationship between Joker and Harley Quinn. I think Margot Robbie's performance as Harley Quinn was great. Jared Leto's performance of the Joker, however, left a bad taste in my mouth. But when you're really going against Jack Nicholson, Mark Hamill, and Heath Ledger, the bar is pretty high. The relationship between the characters of the Joker and Harley has always been covered with humor. But an undercurrent of tragedy steamed underneath whatever comedy the two produced. In Suicide Squad, I could hardly feel the tragedy in their relationship. The movie inappropriately trivializes the damage that Joker has done to Harley. And seriously, how many songs can you stuff into one movie? That catnip moment. It wasn't solely that the movie Catwoman seemed centralized around Halle Berry's curvaceous body that made the movie a bad movie. It was also because they made Patience Phillips' transformation into Catwoman rely on her turning into, well, a cat. Okay, I'm exaggerating, but she gains far too many cat-like qualities. In the comics, Catwoman is a thief who dons the cat outfit to better become the persona of a cat burglar. She's fond of cats, make no mistake, but she doesn't find herself turning into one. In Catwoman, Patience begins to have cravings for fish, milk, and shiny things. And let's not forget the catnip. Embarrassingly, when a ball of the herb is thrown at her, Patience catches it and then begins rubbing it all over her face. Ugh. Collateral damage. Perhaps more than any other superhero film, Man of Steel made audiences cringe at the widespread destruction of Metropolis during Superman's aerial fight with Zod. A big, splashy action scene like that is normally supposed to make us oh and ah over the computer graphics and the cinematography. But we just couldn't help but notice that while Superman and Zod were punching each other through buildings, Metropolis was getting wrecked, demolished, absolutely destroyed. And no way can you argue that all those buildings were empty. A large swath of Metropolis got wiped out. I get that filmmakers might want their heroes to have epic battles, but could they maybe do it with less property damage? A tasty snack. Catwoman was a slinky, crazy woman in Batman Returns, and you need look no further for evidence than when she pays the Penguin a visit. Catwoman proposes an alliance to take down the Batman, but while she's having a slothery tete-a-tete with the Penguin, she decides to approach a nearby birdcage with a little bird inside of it. She gently opens the cage door, quickly grasps the bird in her glove hand, and then stuffs it in her mouth. And you want to know the really gross and inappropriate thing about this scene? That was a real bird. Michelle Pfeiffer put a real bird in her mouth for about 4 seconds before releasing it. It makes for a pretty cool looking moment, but gee, that is just insane. Despite it all, Watchmen is filled with jaw-dropping moments, whether your jaw dropped out of awe or disbelief. One such moment is when Laurie finds out the identity of her father is Edward Morgan Blake, the comedian. The comedian was a man of immoral qualities, and that alone may have disgusted Laurie. But to make matters worse, back when the comedian and Laurie's mom were in the same crime-fighting group, he tried to force himself on her. Laurie had known this for a long time, which makes the realization that her mother went back to the comedian after what he tried to do to her all the more awful. Laurie's feelings of dismay are warranted and entirely understandable. Like fathers, like sons. Kids, despite ratings that caution against showing movies to them, are going to flock to see superhero movies. Some of them may not be of an age to understand what is going on when inappropriate events occur. However, there will be times when it is all too apparent what is going on. This is easily seen in Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice, when Lex Luthor creates Doomsday. Doomsday is created using the Kryptonian technology within the downed Kryptonian ship, but kids will recognize that the basic ingredients of Doomsday are a corpse and a bit of Lex Luthor's blood. Besides using some insane aligned magic/science to make this resurrection complete, that is basically all it takes to create a monster. Options. Christopher Nolan, the director of The Dark Knight and Dunkirk, disagreed with the choice made at the end of Man of Steel. Nolan worked on Man of Steel as a producer of the film, and when the decision was made to have Superman eliminate Zod at the end, Nolan wished otherwise. It was a controversial decision and one that I disagree with as well. Superman, as a symbol of heroism and hope to many, was tarnished when he snapped Zod's neck. Plus, as a friend of mine heatedly pointed out to me minutes after seeing the film, there were so many other ways Superman could have saved the family Zod was attacking and stopped Zod without any loss of life. Superman could have simply picked Zod up and flown away with him. Super awful. Superman Returns is probably one of the most depressing Superman movies ever made. Superman, after an absence of 5 years, returns to Earth to find that his friends have forgotten him, his love interest has moved on, his enemy has been released from jail, and he is basically all alone on the small planet he calls home. His next actions hover between disquieted and inappropriate. Mopey and pining after Lois Lane, he flies on over to her shared house with her significant other and son and spies on them using his X-ray vision. He conveniently stalks the family long enough to hear some words spoken about Superman's arrival, and then flies off, reinforcing the idea that it's okay to follow the person you like if you're the main character of your own movie. There's something about Martha. Ah yes, the Martha controversy from Batman v Superman. The inappropriateness of this moment, as well as the stupidity of this moment, has to do with the sudden sensation of Batman's homicidal intentions. From the beginning of the movie, we were inundated with Bruce Wayne's fury and fear over the potential threat that Superman posed. The entire movie's plot was built on this growing eerie within Batman's heart, and with the simple utterance of the words, "Save Martha," Batman's desire to stab Superman in the heart with a kryptonite spear just fades away. Hearing your mother's name from a stranger might give anyone pause, but we all thought that Batman had more willpower than that. And speaking of willpower, beware my power. Hal Jordan's real strength shouldn't be his willpower. When you think about it, his power is being a homogeneous jerk and getting away with it. The movie Green Lantern has a lot of issues, and one of the worst ones is how insipid Hal Jordan's growth into a hero is. He behaves in an erratic and obnoxious way, and yet he never gets punished for it. He wastes millions of dollars while testing planes because he wrecks them. People get mad at him, but he doesn't get fired. He actually decides to quit the Green Lantern Corps, but he gets to keep the ring and the lantern that powers it. And since he's a hero, he saves the day and wins the girl. At no point in this movie does it feel that Hal learns a lesson. And boy, does he need to learn a lesson. Making the magic happen. One of the facets of Suicide Squad that critics keep focusing on is the lack of an interesting villain. I didn't think that the Enchantress was an engaging villain. I didn't understand what she was doing, and I didn't understand her motivations aside from getting free from Amanda Waller's control. But the most insulting thing about her was the way she would use her magic. I'm talking about the way she made goo soldiers out of human beings. Do you remember how she did that? She would kiss them. That is seriously impractical. Did she kiss every single person that she turned into a goo soldier? How much time did she waste doing that? Why is that the only form of magic she uses that requires physical interaction? It seems like a tactic to make an already barely clothed woman appear more desirable. The Wayne fascination. Dr. Chase Meridian, I still don't think she's a legitimate doctor, is not the only person in Batman Forever to have a crush on Bruce Wayne, though she does not at first know that Batman is Bruce Wayne and vice versa. Edward Nygma, originally an employee of Wayne Enterprises, idolizes Bruce Wayne. He cut up magazine pictures and posted them all over his little cubicle. And when he believed that Bruce Wayne had slighted him, he made it his life's goal to try to show him up. He created the Riddler persona during his pursuit, met up with Harvey Two-Face, and discovered Batman's secret identity. Nygma's further descent into madness, he was already a bit mad to begin with, is the product of an inappropriate obsession, taking away a woman's choice. We expect Superman to be a good person. In the other entries on this list where he appears, it's always disappointing when he veers away from this idea. In Superman 2 and in 4, he inexplicably gains the ability to make people suffer amnesia after he kisses them, and he uses this power on Lois after he tells her about his alter ego. This is supposed to be a self-sacrificing move where he tries to spare her from the trials of knowing his identities. But, however, you look at it, he is forcibly removing her memory, and in the fourth movie, he kisses her almost immediately after telling her some of his secrets. It was like he was toying with her. Seriously, where does the power come from? Who thought this was a good idea?
If you like this video, click the Geek What icon and subscribe.